All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show where we are here to answer your questions, talk through your concerns, and also just show you what we're doing on this slate. Basically, that's our strategy. It's a nice 6-game slate. Not that much news so far. Brandon, the one and only, you've won multiple DFS NBA and MLB and NFL tournaments, here to kind of walk us through your strategy. How are you feeling about this slate, man?
Feeling pretty good. We do still have some big news out there like Brunson and John Morant. So things could drastically change depending on what happens. But with what we have so far, I'm liking what I have.
If you don't talk about it, though, it doesn't exist. And so then we can just pretend like everything we have now is all that we need and will need. But no, you're right. And then for me, I've won multiple NBA tournaments, won 100K a couple times. And I'm also here to answer your questions and talk through this slate. So let's jump right into it. First things first, we have the Timberwolves going up against the Washington Wizards. Great matchup here for the Timberwolves. Let's see. Do we have any injury news, though, that's worth discussing? Let's see here. Uh-oh. I think I exited out of my news sheet, but I don't believe there's any news for the Timberwolves, were there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, unless I'm missing something. What are you doing with the Wolves tonight?
So before I dive in, just a disclaimer, I'm doing 20 max. And I take a bit more stands than I would in my 150. So there's going to be some plays that I might like, but just didn't get there just because of how aggressive I am in my 20 max. So just wanted to throw that out there when y'all see my
20 maxing? What
I've been 20 maxing quite a bit lately, and it's been going well. So I'm just kind of sticking with it.
I like 20 maxing. I started off 20 maxing is how I won my first 10K, and it used to be my jam, but then I've kind of gotten out of practice with it. So no, but okay. Well, that's good, helpful context. Cause I agree. There is a little bit of a different thought process there. But yeah, it seems like you didn't do too many changes because, like you said, you have to do, like you said, a few more tougher stances here. But the Timberwolves are a team I'm looking to. What was that?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, this team, you really don't have to do much. They should be popping with the matchup. We don't really have much value. So guys like Nas Reed and Jaden McDaniels, I would say, are the value of the night in this matchup. And then Gobert at 5,200. I'm not the biggest Gobert fan, but I think this is the lowest price we've seen him in. I mean, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid or foul out, like there's zero reason why he shouldn't pay off this price. So pretty obvious spots on this side of the ball. And only change I did make was I gave Conley a thumbs down. He was showing up like core level. I'm okay with being around 20%, but he just really hasn't been that good. And Dante has been taking his minutes. He's starting over him. Dante, I think, played like 35 or 36 minutes last game, and Conley only played 16, if I remember correctly. So I think that trend continues. And then have to mention Edwards as well. I didn't put like a man or anything on him, so I'm just kind of letting the DS dictate how much of him I get.
Yeah, that's a great call out on Conley. We talked about it on the show last week a good bit. You can tell the tides are turning here with Conley and DiVincenzo. Neither one are playing fantastically, but Conley is on the way out. He's a little bit further in his career. DiVincenzo is the guy that they're looking to make a priority moving forward. For me in the domination station, I have a 30% min on Anthony Edwards. He's my favorite stud on the slate, and so he's the guy I wanted to make a priority. He's shown some signs of life that he might still have that 50-point upside, and so hopefully he'll continue that. What's up, Stacks, King of all trades, Thomas Dye, Theo C. Good to see y'all in the chat. I know We don't have as many guys with us today. A lot of people are focusing on the showdown slate tonight with Bobby Wow and Geek, and I get it, but I appreciate those who are loyal and here today. We'll share the leverage plays and stuff like that, since probably the last slate that should be interrupted by the NFL. But anyway, back to the slate. 30% men on Julius Randle. I have a like on DiVincenzo. He's showing up a good bit, but he still wasn't showing up over field weight exposure. So I put a like to make him show up around 33% for me. And then Rudy Gobert, I also have a like on. Just price tag's fantastic. Matchup is fantastic. I love all the Timberwolves tonight. So really, doesn't shock me that I like Rudy so much. But he is the player where if I was going to lock anyone on this slate, it would be Rudy Gobert. I just think he's the best all-around play on this slate. Like you said, Brandon, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid.
Just to give y'all a snippet of my exposures, he is at 100% of my 20 max.
Yeah, and that makes total sense on this slate. And then let's see, there might be a few more guys I've done some stuff to. Jaden McDaniels is showing up around 50%, which is a lot, but I like him today on this slate as well at just 4,200. And then I did cap Mike Conley at 20%. So no matter what, I'll be under the field on him just because his minutes have been all over the place. But he is only 3,400, and that's the only reason why he's even worth having a conversation. How much of him are you getting, or were you getting with a dislike?
Like 15 to 20%. So I'll be still close to field weight, but I'm perfectly fine being under. I forgot to mention Alexander Walker too. I did put a 15% min on him. I think he's even been outplaying Conley, and if this game does get out of hand, that could potentially benefit him as well. So just want to make sure I throw in another cheap value play.
It is so sad seeing Conley go out this way.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys I've always liked for a while. Even when it comes to DFS, he's helped me a lot, but it's his time and it's a buzzkill, but it's okay. No, I can't do it. I can't get there with you on that one, but not a bad dart throw at 3,300. Just for a value play, I get it. Let's see here. I think that's it. Yeah. Moving on. What's up, Cujo, Dell, William? What's up, man? All right. Next up, we have the Washington Wizards going up against the Timberwolves. When it comes to injury news for Washington, Malcolm Brogdon is out. Bagley, Bay, all these guys are out. Nothing else besides that, though. Brutal matchup going up against the Timberwolves. You force exposure here, or what you do?
I try my hardest to find just one reason to play anybody on this side of the ball, and I just couldn't do it. So, probably my least favorite team on the slate, and I won't be playing anybody here.
Yeah, this was just one of those I see you, but I'm not going to play you, and just moved on moments. Okay. Next up, we have the Golden State Warriors going up against the Raptors. Great matchup for the Warriors here. When it comes to the news, though, Draymond Green officially out. Kuminga out. Podziemski out. Payton out. So thankfully, at least we have that news and information. Did we just get that Draymond news, or when did we get that?
A couple minutes ago.
Okay, look at that. I was on top of it, and we were live. Love to see it. Might not happen again for a while, but take your blessings. Gotta take your blessings. All right. So yeah, with Draymond out, that makes this team a bit more interesting. Who are you looking at here?
So Andrew Wiggins was already core for me, but that just kind of solidified my love for him tonight. There's no Kuminga, of course, still, and now without Dre, like that just solidifies his role. The matchup is amazing for him, and I think this is the second highest total on the slate. So I do like this pace for him. Still at a good price too. So now that Dre is out, he might be another person I have 100% of in my 20 max, just to be honest.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll add here too is with Trace, the main reason I didn't have Trace as a leverage play on this slate was because of Rudy Gobert. But because Draymond is out now, Trace is right there with Rudy for me. And so I'll see what the DS does. But kind of like what you're saying, it wouldn't shock me if I might not actually have quite as much Rudy Gobert. I think he'll probably still be a core play for me. But because we have two really strong plays at the same position, that ownership might get a little weird.
But yeah, I like Trace before that news, but I like him even more. So I had a 15% min on him, but I'm probably gonna get more. Not quite on the exact percentage, but if I had to guess, probably like around 30 to 40% now for my 20 max. Wasn't really a fan of Schroeder. I get if you want to play him at his price in the matchup, but he really hasn't shown us too much in this role. And I know Dre is out now, which should help him a bit, but I barely like him without Curry. So with Curry in, it's just hard for me to play him. I don't like that ownership on him either. And then who else? I guess I'll wait for the DS to update on some of these other guys. Maybe some Hill might slip in some lines, but not too big of a fan on anyone else here.
Yeah, and I'll do a usage rate check on the Warriors too after once we kind of go through these games, and hopefully we can also see the DS update. Speaking of the DS updating, for those of you who watch but you aren't a DFS member, you probably feel like we freaking suck at this, because on this show, we talk about core plays 30 minutes before lock, and by the time we get to lock, so much shit changes, and our core plays are completely different. I think it was Thursday or Wednesday, or I don't know. It was one of those days last week, and we were talking about playing the Warriors, or actually not playing the Warriors, and I was always like, you know what? I don't like playing the Warriors too much. But then by the time we got to lock, because Moody was out and someone else was starting, we had a shit ton of the Warriors, and they all went off. So what I'm saying is, if you're not a DFS Army member and you like this show, click the link. Feel free to use promo code BDUB, BDUBB, for a 10% discount for a month, and have access to the Discord and the optimizer, so you can follow along and actually be able to take the information and utilize it in the right way.
The Discord is so worth it. Like you said, like so much changes. Like once we end the show, between that and lock, like you got to have our Discord. It's a must.
It's just a game changer. It was Buddy Hield last week starting. That was the crazy piece of news we got. But anyway, for me with the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins was already showing up in 85% of my lines before the Draymond news. I feel like that's probably only going to go up. Let's see. Trace, I have a 20% min on. Like we keep saying, that's going to only go up. And then Schroeder's only showing up in about 3% of my lines, and Curry only in about 1%. Curry is someone I am now willing to put him in on. With Draymond out, he should see an increase in usage. Again, we'll check usage rates after we get through these games. So yeah, Rodney, we'll touch on Curry after this one. Next up, on the other side of the ball, we have the Raptors going up against the Warriors, who've been a pretty good defense this season. For the Raptors, when it comes to injuries, we have Emmanuel Quickly listed as questionable. That's a pretty big deal for the starters, let alone whoever they end up putting in the starting lineup here. But for you, it looks like I see one guy you like a good bit. Who are you looking at?
Jakob Podol is the only guy I'm forcing in. I just like his price in this spot for him. He's someone else who has pretty good upside. And as I mentioned earlier, I love this matchup. So just wanted to make sure I got some of him tonight. I thought about Quickly. Of course, we have to wait for that news, but I'm just waiting for his price to drop just a bit more. maybe if I was playing 150, I'd throw a 10% min on him. But again, I'm pretty picky when it comes to my 20 max, so I didn't get there. I will mention if he's ruled out, I'd be willing to take shots on Jamal Sheed and Bruce Brown.
Yeah, for sure. I think they probably become some of the chalkier plays on the slate if Quickly gets ruled out. I like your Jakob protocol. I like it even more with Draymond out. We've seen it before. The Warriors' defense kind of falls apart, at least their front court, when Draymond's out. And so even though I didn't love Jakob Poeltl coming into the slate, I think a 15 to 20% min makes sense. Again, you are still losing some of the really strong center plays from Rudy Gobert and Trace, and even AD. But I do still like having some exposure to Jakob Poeltl because we know how explosive he can be, and his ownership should only fall as we continue to get news on the slate. What are your thoughts on Barnes? You think about him at all?
No, he's somebody. I mean, I wouldn't tell someone not to play him. I just didn't get there tonight.
I didn't either. But again, front court, I mean, I know Barnes moves around a good bit, but the matchup's a little bit softer. He's only 8,900. This game is the second highest total game on the slate. I'm thinking I'm going to put a 5% min on Scotty Barnes at least, but I'm considering a 10% min here with that Draymond news. I just think it's a little bit more interesting.
He's somebody who has tournament winning upside, so I don't hate that shot at all.
If Quickly gets ruled out, it becomes a no-brainer, but for now, it's just a 5% min. I don't think it's that great outside of that. Okay, next up, we have the Pistons going up against the Knicks. For the Pistons, not too much injury news here. Jaden Ivey's been out for a bit, but nothing outside of that. They do have a brutal matchup going up against the Knicks. Who are you looking at?
No one really. As you can see, I threw a like on K just to see if he would show up any, and he still isn't. At one point, I had 5%, but that fell off. So he'd be the one person I'd be okay with playing here, but I'm not really looking at anyone else here.
Yeah. Bridges was one guy I was looking at a little bit closer. He hasn't really been great since Christmas, but it's really just his shot is a little bit wonky here lately. But ultimately, just because of some of the other plays on the slate, I just felt like there are other guys I like a bit more. So I didn't take that shot. Or actually, sorry. I was looking at the Knicks. But yeah, for the Pistons, I'm not looking at them at all. Outside of Duran, he is showing up in about 5% of my lines, but that's still me being significantly under the field. All right, back on track. Now for the Knicks going up against the Pistons, this is where we have Jalen Brunson listed as questionable. If he gets ruled out, we're playing the Knicks tonight, but hopefully he's playing. At least that's my hopes. What's your strat here?
Only thing I did was put a 15% min on Cat. His upside's just too high, and I think he can get it done against this Detroit team. So he's the one I wanted to take a shot on. I wouldn't be surprised if one of Bridges or OG kind of goes off tonight, but they're both just like super inconsistent. They play a crap ton of minutes, but they can get you 15 points or 40 points. So kind of pick your poison there, but I didn't really.
This in the least like conceited way possible, but sometimes I feel like the NBA is just waiting for us to talk about a game and get past it, and then news will come out for it. But we did just get the news that Quickly's out. We'll go back through that at the end of the show and see how that switches things up. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to them as like a last man in, especially if you're going more of like a balanced build. They fit that really well. But like I said, just know that they're pretty volatile and their floor is pretty gross. And then I'm usually a fan of Hart, but I mean, his price has been up there for quite a while. So it was just a bit harder for me to get there. And as you mentioned, if Brunson gets ruled out, then I think we're playing most of these guys here. So
Yeah, exactly. None of these guys are really standing out for me right now, unless we get news. I'll double check that news. OG, I do like on this slate, just like his price tag, 5,800, the cheapest of this group, who all see a shit ton of minutes. But he's the only guy I just put a like on in the DS, and he's still only showing up in about 5% of my lines, which I can live with. I'm not going to force it outside of that. But no one else is showing up outside of that. So, again, just going to have to keep a close eye out for the news, but not my favorite spot. Next up, we have the Grizzlies going up against the Rockets. This game is my favorite game and my favorite spot. So this is a situation I want to try and force exposure to as much as I can. But from a injury news standpoint, not a lot. We do have Ja Morant listed as questionable, still going through that illness. But outside of that, nothing really new. Marcus Smart still out. Yeah, that's pretty much all worth mentioning. What are you doing here?
nothing really. I think the only way I'm going to have exposure to the side of the ball is if John Morant gets ruled out, which if that happens, I think we'll have to prioritize Scottie Pippen Jr. But if he plays, probably not going anywhere on this side of the ball.
Wyatt, I see you. We'll get there at the end of the show. Rodney said Hart is the best play on the Knicks. All right, I see you, man. I don't disagree. It's just his price tag. That's the only thing. Thomas Dye, OG. Okay, I agree. I'm with you on OG Thomas. He's my favorite Nick. All right. For me, when it comes to Memphis, like I said, I like these guys a lot, and this is pretty much me saying the same thing I say all the time, but I like attacking the Rockets with guards, and it's tough for me to get too trigger happy with the Grizzlies yet, just because we don't have the Ja Morant news. But if Ja Morant plays, I plan on having exposure to Ja. We saw him play 30 plus minutes last time out, and so seeing him finally see 30 minutes, we know the upside he can have in these spots. And the matchup is soft because the Rockets are not great against guards. So Ja's a play I like a lot on this slate, to be honest, but it's just hard to get too excited about that yet because of that news. And if he gets ruled out, Bane becomes one of my favorite plays on the slate. So that's pretty much it. I have a like on Santi Aldama just because he stood out a little bit for me in the sim model, but he's not. Oh, actually showing up around 7%. I'm going to take the like off of him and just put like a 3% min just so I have a little bit of exposure. So I feel like I at least listen to the sim a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, Brunson being a game time decision is tough. All right. Next up, we have the Rocket side of things, which is also fantastic. From an injury perspective, we have not a lot to look at. Terry Easton is doubtful. Jabari's been out for a while. What did you do here?
So probably my favorite play on this team is Jalen Green. He's just in great form. He shoots the ball a ton, plays a lot of minutes, and still at a good price for his upside. So I'll be way over the field on him tonight. I do like Amin. I wasn't getting much, so I threw a like on him just to see what that would do. And still under the field, which I'm okay with just because of how much green I have. But definitely don't mind him. His price is up, which is kind of why he's not showing up as much for me. But still a good play. And then Şengün, I was naturally getting, but I just put a 20% min on just to make sure he doesn't fall below that. And then I always like taking shots on Van Vliet as well. He's somebody who can pop off and has great upside for his price. Almost pretty much the whole starting five minus Dillon Brooks. I like quite a bit tonight.
Once again, great minds think alike, but I went even a little bit more aggressive than you and a little bit more aggressive than me normally. So, here we are playing the Rockets. I like the spot, though. Grizzlies are not a great defensive team. I have a 20% min on Şengün, making sure I'm going to be over the field on him. But he's not my favorite center. So I don't feel like this is something you have to do. This is also just me kind of following that same philosophy of attacking the highest total game. I have a 14% min on Dylan Brooks. I never like playing Dylan Brooks. Y'all know I have a long history with him, but the sim model liked him. Great game environment. So I'm just going to bite the bullet there. Amin Thompson, the price tag did scare me away, and he wasn't showing up naturally. So I just didn't force it. But I did put a like on Fred VanVleet, and he is a leverage play for me on this slate. So I'm significantly over the field on him. And Jalen Green was almost a leverage play until he was just a core play. So I'm with you. Again, just great matchup across the board for pretty much all of the Rockets. Anyone we miss out on? Any like value we should look at here? No one stood out for me.
I mean, Cam Whitmore is worth a mention, I guess. He hasn't been as good as we've seen him, but with value kind of being short, don't hate if you took a shot on him.
Okay, fair. All right, next up we have the Heat going up against the Clippers. One of the grossest and quite literally the lowest total game on the slate. The Heat don't really have any injury news worth talking about anymore. We know Jimmy Butler's not around, but he's not been around for a while. Bam is questionable. Have we got any updates on that?
Don't think so.
Okay, so that Bam news is actually pretty substantial, so we'll have to keep a close eye out for that. But nothing really outside of that picture. Are you looking at the Heat today?
So, who did I say my least favorite team on the slate was? The Wizards. I'd say this is probably my second least favorite team on the slate. So, I did have some Jovic showing up like 5%, but he's been falling in and out. So, I'm okay with that as another 4K player, but not really on anyone here. I guess you can always mention Tyler Hero. He has 60-point upside. I'm just not a fan of this matchup, so I won't be going there tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. Jovic is showing up still for me in about 8% of my lines, or 9%, so I'm right around field weight for him. Terry Rozier is showing up in about 2% of my lines, but I didn't do anything to make that happen. I just let the DS roll. I don't like the Heat tonight. I would not force exposure to them. Clippers are a little bit more interesting, slightly, ever so slightly. For the Clippers, we have no real injury news worth talking about. They're healthy for the first time in a while. We know Kawhi Leonard won't see more than around 20 minutes or so, we believe, unless something changes dramatically here. But who do you take shots on, if anybody?
No one really. I did lower Harden's projection just a bit. He was showing up like near a core play, which I didn't want. So I'll be a bit closer to fill weight, around 15 to 20%. And honestly, the only reason why I don't mind playing him is just that price, 8,300. If the game can stay close and he actually feels like playing basketball tonight, he's good enough to pay this price off. So I'm okay with having Phil Wade, but he's just someone I didn't want to be significantly over. And then the second guy I considered was Norman Powell, but I just didn't really see too much upside from him in this spot, so I didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I was looking at James Harden earlier today. I don't hate the matchup against the Heat. The Heat, they're a good defensive team, but against guards, they're not really anything special. The total took me off. Sim model, let me double check. Actually, I don't think it was a big fan of Harden, but I could be off. It didn't hate him. Yeah, it was fun. But ultimately, I couldn't pull the trigger here. With Kawhi returning, his usage rate kind of goes and falls back down to earth. We haven't seen him be explosive yet. 8,300 isn't a bad price tag for Harden, but I would rather see him be around 7,900, especially in a game environment I'm not the biggest fan of. And so, yeah, I didn't do anything to the Clippers. But the one thing I will say is that James Harden does show up a good amount by himself. And so I have a 30% exposure maximum on him for that reason, because he was showing up a bit too much. Not core play worthy, but 30% cap was about it for me. Anyone else you want to touch on here?
Nope.
Cool. All right. Next up, we have the Spurs going up against the Lakers. This was a game, or at least from the Spurs side of things, I thought I was going to like them a lot more. But as we've gone throughout the slate, I've fallen off of them a little bit. For the Spurs tonight, we have Sohan listed as questionable. Are you playing the Spurs tonight?
Yep. So I will say, if I was playing 150, I would take shots on Vassell and Wemby, but just didn't get there in my 20 max. However, I am taking a shot on Chris Paul. He's one of my favorite sneaky plays on the slate. He's had back-to-back 40-point games. And, I mean, look at his ownership. He's only 8%. And Lakers defense isn't really scary, especially against guards. They've been bleeding quite a bit points. So I put a 20% min on him and moved on. And the sim model, he's popping big time on the sim model too.
I was going to ask you, I was like, you've seen what the sim model is doing with Chris Paul. And I was going to ask you about him literally on the show. And I thought you were going to be like right there with me. Like, wow, man, what the hell is this on Chris Paul? Like, what's going on? And here I am looking at you with a 20% min on Chris Paul. And I'm just like, all of that made sense. But do I really want 20% Chris Paul? I have my guy Brandon and the sim model, two big pieces I trust a lot when it comes to DFS. I have a like on him. I had a like on him because the sim model liked him, and he was only showing up in 3% of my lines. I think I'm going to put a 10% min on Chris Paul. I think you're right. It just makes sense on this slate. Sim model likes him. He's priced well. Lakers have been giving up a good amount of points to guards historically. They have improved ever since getting rid of D'Angelo Russell. They haven't been giving up quite as many points to guards. But still, I'll put the 10% min there and call it a day. Actually, I'm just going to put an 8% min. I can't do much more than that. I already feel a little icky doing this. I will put a 5% min on Victor Wembanyama. Again, the Lakers are improving from a defensive standpoint, but still a pretty neutral spot for him going up against AD here. And then that's pretty much it for me when it comes to players I'm looking to force. I just don't love the Spurs tonight, unfortunately. We have a little bit of Vassell and Castle showing up. Two guys I would like a lot more if we get that Sohan news. But until then.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to mention is Castle will for sure be in play if he gets rolled out, because he usually starts in his place.
Okay. And then for the Lakers, they have not really any injury news worth discussing. But I know you always have a Laker or two you like. Who are you looking at?
Mainly the three guys here. LeBron. I mean, it's just hard not to like him at 9,500. He overall this year has been really solid, and I like this spot for him. Austin Reeves. Outside of last game where they got blown out, I feel like he just kind of turned it up a notch, and I'll be way over the field on him. And another sim model play that I like quite a bit. And then AD, I might bump this up to 20%, but I mean, it's hard not to like AD in this spot as well. I know he's going up against Wemby, but he's someone we always mention. We don't really care who he's playing. His upside is crazy too.
Dixon Sider said, "Thank goodness I'm here in time to remind y'all that James Harden is a bum. He's never seen a lineup of mine ever again." Thank you for the reminder, Dixon. Appreciate you, man. For me, when it comes to the Lakers, I feel like I say this all the time. It's so weird playing NBA DFS. I feel like we've been playing the Rockets for weeks and months. On every slate, we're always playing Jalen Green. We're always playing Fred VanVleet. But for us, once again, when you have Victor Wembanyama on a slate, you play Victor because you know the upside he has. But you also play whatever opposing center is he's going up against because he's a good defender. But when it comes to DFS purposes, he's not great at limiting points. So Anthony Davis is going up against the guy who's giving up the 6th most fantasy points to centers. And so Anthony Davis is another guy I have as a leverage play who I want to be significantly over the field on. What are your thoughts on Reeves?
Oh, I love Reeves. I think I have 50% of him so far. So, like I say, he's been in great form. I feel like his playmaking has improved quite a bit too. Like he's been racking up a lot of assists, and we know he has no issue scoring the ball too. So I think this is a solid spot for him.
Yeah. I don't love Reeves, but I'm okay with him. I didn't do anything to him in the DS. I just let it ride. But he's another just very viable play who's showing up a good amount for me. Max Christie, I feel like I've been hitting the right spots of him in a really weird way. But I don't think this is a spot for him. Did you look at Christie at all?
No.
You said that so quick, like you were never ever going to consider him. He hasn't been bad though. He hasn't been.
No,
bad.
he hasn't.
He hasn't been bad. All right.
Maybe if I was doing 150, I would take a shot, but
yeah, I'm not taking a shot. I'm not even trying to get validation for it. I was just curious. Sweet. Darius J said Rudy Gobert is one of the scariest cores I've seen in a while. I would agree with you, but I could just be lying to myself, but I remember at least a couple times last year we had Rudy Gobert as a core play and he was like 79, 8,900. So playing him at 5K basically isn't that scary? I'm not really that worried. Should I be? Am I about to get slapped in the face and reminded what reality feels like? Maybe, but I feel good.
I do too.
80 gonna pretend he's hurt and leave the game once Wemby starts cooking him. Wouldn't shock me. Yeah, Darius, it sounds just like him. All right, William, keeping us on track. I appreciate you, man. Who are the must-have in single entry? Brandon, we can do this however you want to. We can just talk through your favorite single entry plays, or you can kind of go position by position and kind of talk through your favorite just position single entry core plays, or plays. How are you thinking about that? How do you want to go about
it? I guess we can do position.
Okay. Do you want to start at point guard? Favorite single entry play?
Yep. So I'll show some of my exposure. So point guard, I'd say most exposure I have is Austin Reeves.
And for me, it'd be Fred VanVleet.
Yep. Okay. Shooting guard, Jalen Green, of course.
Mm-hmm. Same for me.
Small forward will be well, I'm playing both of these guys in mind, but McDaniels and Wiggins. Mm-hmm. And then PF will be Reed, of course, and then center Gobert.
But it'll probably, and I'm speaking for you, and you can just tell me if I'm wrong. But I think it will change, probably like Kyle Anderson for the Warriors with Draymond out, for you probably at power forward. For me right now at small forward, and I think this is probably true for you too, it's Andrew Wiggins. And then power forward is Kyle Anderson. And then center is Rudy. So that's actually not really a must-have in single entry, but it's kind of like our favorite play at every position. So take like 2 out of the 3, and that's your must-have for single entry.
I would say Gobert for sure is a must-have in single entry.
And William, I know you're a member, so you can also look at like core plays and stuff like that too. That's also usually pretty much a must-have for single entries. Dixon said, we can't trust Christie. He has a woman's name. This ain't the WNBA. You need help, man. X said, what's up with the DS of all the wrong projections? I don't have wrong projections.
Yeah, if
Now I
you
do.
refresh, it's doing a thing where it's showing like the projections in the thousands, but
Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
sure uppers will have it fixed soon.
Yeah, we'll have it fixed in not even 2 minutes. Thomas said, what is your exposure to Reed? Great question. Let's see. For me, I'm at 51%, but I'll probably end up no higher than 45. What do you think, Brendan?
95% right now, but that
95.
might change. Yeah, I'm doing 20 max too, so I'm a bit more aggressive, but I'm sure once we get the DS situated, Kyle Anderson will probably knock him down. So
Yeah, I do agree. In 20 max, that makes way more sense, actually. Dixon said, how many men's Anderson playing with Draymond out? More is all I have for you, Dixon. I don't know exactly how many. I can tell you what we have projected if we have it updated.
I was gonna say 25, but we have him at 22.
Yeah, I think anywhere from like 20 to 25 is more realistic. What is he at typically? Let me double check. Golden State Warriors, Kyle Anderson.
He saw 26 last game when everyone was out.
Yeah, so I think 25, 26 is a very fair and realistic projection. Us at 22 seems a little conservative, but we already still have him showing up in the vast majority of our lines right now, so it's not the end of the world. All right, let's see. Some of the situations where we have injury news. So we touched on the Warriors already. We'll go back around and touch on that, but we got the quickly news while we were still alive. Let's see, Raptors. Did that dramatically change anything for you off the top?
Yep, I will be taking shots on Jamal Sheed, like I mentioned earlier, and then I think Grady Dick is for sure in play as well. And then I'm not sure if I'll pull the trigger on him, but I do like that he saw an increase in minutes last game, and that would be Bruce Brown. But I'm not as confident in that one.
See, Bruce Brown is a fun play. That's the play that you're a little scared because you know it can get bad. You know, playing Bruce Brown can be ugly, but if you've been playing NBA DFS for a little bit, you feel a little good about that one. I like that. Bruce Brown, I'm gonna take a shot. I don't hate it. Sheed, I think he just makes so much sense now. He's not showing up a ton for me just yet, but I expect that to change. Grady Dick is showing up a lot now for me, at least around 20 to 30%. So he's someone that's definitely going to start to see a bit more run. And then I mentioned it when we talked about this game, but Scotty Barnes is someone else that I want a little bit of exposure to. Again, matchup looks tough on paper against the Warriors, but with Draymond out, they struggle a bit. So I like the matchup a bit more than I did originally. And with quickly out, the increasing usage for Barnes is just something that I want to have some exposure to. Anything else you want to add here?
No, I was gonna say I will be joining you on that Barnes call too.
Yeah, Thomas, I agree though. Kyle is definitely going to be a core play or close to it for sure. Let's see. And then was there another news spot that we got while we were still alive? Doesn't look like it. Brunson's still a game time decision. That's just sucky, but we'll get over it. So that's pretty much everything for us, y'all. We will be back on Wednesday live, but hopefully we can just celebrate tonight, watch some football, and just, get ready for the rest of this week. But Darius said, do either of you like Towns? I think you do, right, Brandon?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I didn't get there. I don't like the spot quite as much, but Brandon likes them. Yeah, best of lucks. Hope you all are able and capable of hitting the like button so people know that you all are watching and engaging. But if not, I'll see you all on Wednesday. Peace out, y'all.